Chapter 1461, Weirdly Prosperous. Chapter 1461, Weirdly Prosperous. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The sovereign immortal aperture was filled with serenity and peace. Because without changes in weather or day and night, this place was completely still. Fang Yuan had rank 7 cultivation level. The sovereign immortal aperture was only a blessed land. There were no weather phenomena in blessed lands. Only at the brink of becoming a grotto heaven would such phenomena emerge. Even without atmospheric changes, the sovereign immortal aperture was not a dead land, it was filled with life. Many northern plains was colder, especially towards the extreme north, there was nothing there. After annexing Han Dong's blessed land, there was a spirit snake resource point managed by the pink spirit snake land spirit. Other than that, he had the bone burial field with lots of bone immortal materials. And to the south, Fang Yuan was trying to create a blood-red grassland with blood sickle grass and red axe flowers as the foundation, to let those pink flower rabbits, wolves, and foxes live in. In Mini Central Continent, there was a blood G forest and mirror willow forest. They were grown here casually by Fang Yuan. He did not nurture them purposely, their scale was not big. There was also a jade light pit that had light path mortal goo. In Mini Western Desert, his focus was on the eerie fire dragon python pit, the sand gull beach, rotten black swamp, rotting swamp, black hound mound, belonged to Lu Yong blessed land, managed by the black hound land spirit. There was also a new mortal goo house, Corpse City, which Fang Yuan had obtained from Western Desert's Translocation Desert. Most of the immortal materials inside were traded to 1,000 transformations little was left. In Mini Eastern Sea, it was no longer a shallow body of water, it had a trace of an ocean's capacity. Especially the 2 sea areas, Dragon Scale Sea Area and Wu Yi Hai's Sea Area. For the former, Fang Yuan had invested a lot of finances and energy into creating this large-scale resource point, and for the latter, after annexing Wu Yi Hai's blessed land, the sea turtle was managing it for Fang Yuan. There were 3 ancient desolate beast horn divine tortoises, a field of ancient desolate plant silent corals, and 6 desolate beast white letter blue feather seagulls. Other than the 2 sea areas, there was a blood lake. It was not too big. Fang Yuan had used it to repair blood asset immortal goo earlier, he had kept it for now. The water of the lake has collected a lot of desolate beast and goo immortal blood. Below the blood lake, there were many shallow seas, arranged by Fang Yuan specially to raise the air bubble fish, literature carps, jade carps, blood jade carps and others. There was even an ancient desolate beast hidden room oyster. Fang Yuan had obtained it in Eastern Sea. The secluded domain of heaven and earth, reverse flow river, was also placed here. Mini southern border was the region with the most development among all of them. There was 5 Light Mountain, Immortal Succession Mountain, Become Dragon Mound, Heaven Sealing Mountain, and a dozen other nameless mountains, as well as Coiling Thread Caves and the Stalactite Cave. In the forest and underground, a small number of rock men were living here. The vegetation included musical trees, tea streams, chi death birds and others, creating an ecosystem with great vitality. As for the miniature 9 heavens, Mini Red Heaven had a large number of year beasts and that immemorial year monkey. Fang Yuan had been paying attention to Mini Orange Heaven recently. There was the light shine fungi that made the scale of aurora lights expand rapidly, and more flowing light fruits were being nurtured within. Mini Yellow Heaven was very empty, there was only a tiny gold fragment current. Mini Green Heaven was completely empty, but Fang Yuan had placed dream realms in it previously. Mini Azure Heaven had the pill azure incense. This was the food of change soul immortal goo. Fang Yuan had stored a batch in here last time. There was also a heavenly crystal storage pool. It was at the center of Mini Azure Heaven, but it was useless. Mini Blue Heaven had the most development among the miniature 9 heavens. There was a lot of cloud soil here, with lots of star path resources planted here, like arrow bamboo forest and the star fragment grass field, meteorite pit, and a huge floating star fragment island. It was Yi Lui Kun Xing's blessed land. Fang Yuan had annexed it with the star core land spirit managing the place. There was also a falling star hound infant living here. It was very lonely, but it would clash with other desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts elsewhere. After keeping it here, Fang Yuan rarely took care of it. In mini purple heaven, there were groups of eagles. These eagles were desolate beasts and also ancient desolate beasts. Fang Yuan had sold Immortal Gu during the Dream Realm incident to purchase them. They had helped him to enslave the upper extreme heavenly eagle to survive the danger. They were extremely useful. Fang Yuan had wanted to sell them, but he could definitely not get Immortal Gu with them, it would be a huge loss. And since he took more than 80 eagle nests from He tribe's headquarters, he could raise these eagles in them, even though it was not as amazing as the heavenly crystal eagle nest. In the remaining 2 heavens, Mini White Heaven had an eagle hound group, 3 ancient remnant heavenly dogs, and the plantation field of multicolored overlord flowers. Mini Black Heaven had no light at all, it was a special environment, there were only a few ancient desolate plant walking meat trees there. After collating all these assets, Fang Yuan was already on par with some rank 8 Gu immortals. But for the size of the entire immortal aperture, these resources were too little. The reason? The sovereign immortal aperture was simply too large. In the 335,000 square kilometers of space, these resources only occupied a small amount of space. And in terms of the entire sovereign immortal aperture's development, assuming 100% of the space could be used, Fang Yuan was merely slightly above 3% now. 3% development. This was naturally not bad, it was a good thing. The sovereign immortal aperture had unparalleled prospects, but from another perspective, Fang Yuan had no confidence in when he would reach 100% development. This would be a huge task, he would need an extremely huge amount of time. Throughout history, Gu immortals had created an evaluation of immortal aperture development. There were 7 levels. The first level was establishing mortal resources, to produce mortal Gu materials, and ordinary beasts and plants. These resources were in huge scales. Mortals could only raise 5 to 6 mortal Gu at a time. But Gu immortals raised millions of mortal Gu at once. Fang Yuan even sold more than 100 million year Gu earlier. The second level was to create immortal level resources and produce immortal materials. When this level is accomplished, the Gu immortal will be able to produce food for their immortal Gu self-sufficiently. The third level was to create an ecology to raise immortal beasts and plants. The fourth level was to use excess immortal materials, beasts, and plants to trade and earn profits. Looking at this, Fang Yuan was at the fourth level because he had a lot of business that were doing well to earn him lots of profits. Earlier in the year Gu business, Fang Yuan used his great strength to dominate the market in Treasure Yellow Heaven, the 3 sellers were completely helpless against him. But from another perspective, I am still at the second level, because I have not reached self-sufficiency in feeding my immortal Gu. Fang Yuan knew why. He had simply too many immortal Gu. Rank 8, Attitude, Wisdom Sword, Years flow like water. Rank 7, Sword Eyebrows, Wave Sword, Flying Sword, Sword Escape, Year, After, Divination Tortoise Shell, Dragon Breath, Dragon Scale, Precaution, Big, Fight, Affection, Self-Love, Perseverance, Reputation Restriction, Change Soul, Bloodline, Dragon Strength, Formation Flag, and others. Rank 6, Self-Strength, Pulling Mountain, Pulling Water, Strength Chi, Spring Autumn Cicada, Landscape as Before, Man as Before, Day, Unravel Mystery, Vajra Thought, Dog Shit Luck, Chi Luck, Woman's Heart, Blood Asset, Change Form, Star Eyes, Perceivable Tao, Yellow Sand, Cleanse Soul, Luck Inspection, Connect Luck, Time Luck, Star Thought, and others. For the last 4 including Luck Inspection, Fang Yuan had owned them before, but after the Battle of Tian Mountain, due to Change Soul, Wuxia took them away. Fang Yuan used his special will to destroy a few, but Wuxia managed to preserve some of them in the end. Furthermore, there were some Wisdom Path Immortal Gu that Purple Mountain True Monarch left him, and the Time Path Immortal Gu that made up a portion of Graceful Chaotic Dual Stage, they would not be specified. Just counting these, there were more than 50. A shocking number. Most Gu immortals were still desperately trying to find an immortal Gu. In the Gu immortal world, there were the most number of rank 6 Gu immortals, and most of them had no immortal Gu at all. Among the rank 7 and rank 8 Gu immortals, some had 2 or 3 immortal Gu, while others had 5 to 6. But there was a rule: rank 6 Gu immortals desire rank 6 immortal Gu, rank 7 Gu immortals desire rank 7 immortal Gu, and rank 8 Gu immortals desire rank 8 immortal Gu, while rank 9 venerables wanted rank 9 immortal Gu. But Fang Yuan, he had more than 50 immortal Gu. They encompassed rank 6, rank 7, and rank 8. And this was excluding Calamity Beckoning lent to Chu Du, Wisdom Gu in Langya Blessed Land, and Dark Limit Immortal Gu taken by Heavenly Court. There was also the Formation Spirit, it was created by an immortal Gu. Fang Yuan's situation was too special. An otherworldly demon who had reborn, the Hope of Red Lotus Demon Venerable, a former pawn of Heaven's Will, and the current leader of Shadow Sect having countless true inheritances. Even though the journey was dangerous and filled with despair, one had to say, immense risk brought about immense benefits. Fang Yuan was weirdly prosperous now. Because of countless fortuitous encounters, he had the economic foundation of level 4 development, but he had not fulfilled the requirement of level 2. Feeding immortal Gu had always been a huge burden and problem to him. But now, after so much hard work, I have finally gotten some hope of resolving this problem. Rank 9 Wisdom Gu is fed by the profligate Langya Land Spirit, and I have already solved the problem of food for the 3 rank 8 immortal Gu. Next, I will complete my basic development and solve the feeding problem of the rank 6 and 7 immortal Gu, to reach self-sufficiency. Looking at it, Fang Yuan still did not have enough immortal essence stones. Marriage connection with the snowman? Fang Yuan pondered. When Shui'er brought him the snow lotus essence, she also expressed the intention of a marriage connection. These variant humans spoke outrightly and directly. If I work by myself to solve the food issue, it will take a long time. But if I use the snowman, my progress will be rapid. What I lack most now is time. I am not against a marriage connection with the snowman. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1462, Langya Missions. Chapter 1462, Langya Missions. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. On Dang Hun Mountain, there were guts Gu everywhere. Fang Yuan picked them along the way as he strengthened his soul. His soul foundation started to increase. After a while, from 1 million man soul, it rose to 5 million man soul level. Fang Yuan felt an extremely bloated feeling, like he was going to burst. Fang Yuan knew he was at his limit. He left Dang Hun Mountain and came to Luopa Valley. After some cultivation, his soul was refined like tempered steel, it became purer and more condensed. After this, his soul foundation stabilized at 1,500,000 man soul. After million man soul, each cultivation session raises it by 500,000 man soul. Including the time needed to rest my soul, and the production of guts Gu, I need half a year to reach 10 million man soul. Fang Yuan estimated and frowned. This was too slow for him. 10 years, after 10 years, Heavenly Court would completely repair Fade Immortal Gu. By then, Heavenly Court would have the absolute advantage, Fang Yuan and Shadow Sect would have no hope. He needed half a year out of 10 years to reach 10 million man soul, there was also 100 million man soul and higher levels after that. Fang Yuan was not satisfied with the speed. If I can increase the production of guts Gu, I could increase my cultivation speed even further. The production of guts Gu was limiting his soul foundation growth. Dang Hun Mountain was undoubtedly his money tree, but it needed good quality souls to produce more guts Gu endlessly. According to the agreement back then, a portion of these guts Gu belonged to Langya Sect. Langya Land Spirit had to sell them for profits, with a portion of the revenue going to Fang Yuan. Right now, Fang Yuan was using a portion of the guts Gu to cultivate his soul path. It caused his revenue to fall sharply in this business. But thankfully, the year Gu business earlier earned him a lot. Fang Yuan had a lot of funds left now. Fang Yuan assessed it. It was not wise to negotiate with Xianxia Land's spirit now to increase his portion of the Daoist Gu production. Because he needed Xianxia sect now, be it staying inside Xianxia blessed land to develop or using them to refine Gu. In the batch of immortal Gu refinement earlier, the 3 immortal Gu were extremely useful to Fang Yuan. They were now at the second batch of Gu refinement, focusing on mortal Gu like the White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu, and 2 immortal Gu. One was Heavenly Secret. It was created by Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable, and was obtained by Old Man Xianxia. He created an immortal killer move with it, known as Exposing Heavenly Secret. This move had a mystical effect. It could predict the contents of the following calamity or tribulation. If Xianxia's sect could refine Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu, Fang Yuan would be able to use Exposing Heavenly Secret. It would help him in undergoing tribulations tremendously. However, placing a mission for Xianxia's sect to refine Immortal Gu has been depleting my sect contribution points. I need to check this. Thus, after the soul cultivation ended, Fang Yuan used his information path Mortal Gu to check Xianxia's sect's missions. Undoubtedly, the current Xianxia land spirit was far more suited for managing Xianxia's sect than the previous land spirit. Under his management, the entire sect was excavating its potential fully. They were bursting with life. At this moment, Xianxia's sect had many missions. Most of them were the Gu refinement missions that Fang Yuan handed out. Below that, the one of great importance was the exploration of Tai Chiu. Ever since Xianxia's sect created the teleportation formation, it had been exploring Tai Chiu and excavating the natural resources within. This was the main development route that Xianxia's sect was taking. But Tai Chiu was a dangerous place. Ordinary Gu immortals did not want to enter it, even though there were abundant resources. Fierce beasts and dangerous plants grew inside. And the problem was, Xianxia's sect's Gu immortals were skilled at refinement but weak at fighting. Even though they had been raising their strength recently, there were few who could fight. Thus, when they encountered overly strong beasts or plants, these hairy man Gu immortals would be in trouble. The exploration of Tai Chiu was unsuccessful. Seeing these missions, countless thoughts moved about in Fang Yuan's mind rapidly. In a few breaths of time, he chose over a dozen missions with the highest returns. At the next moment, he accepted all of these missions. First Supreme Elder. Fang Yuan communicated with Xianxia Land Spirit using the information path Mortal Gu. Xianxia Land Spirit learned of Fang Yuan's actions as he said in joy, "Fang Yuan, with your strength, these missions will be extremely easy." But Fang Yuan shook his head. "This is what I wanted to discuss with you. I want to send my subordinates to deal with these missions for me. This does not go against Xianxia sect's rules, right?" Xianxia Land Spirit was slightly dazed. He did not think of this when he created the sect rules. Speaking of which, this was not a loophole. Why couldn't the Gu immortal who accepted the mission be allowed to get help? Xianxia Land Spirit replied to Fang Yuan, "Then you need to ensure that these subordinates will not harm Xianxia sect." Fang Yuan smiled, "Of course." After communicating with Xianxia Land Spirit, Fang Yuan started to dispatch the members of Shadow Sect. He Lu Lan, Ing Wu Xie, Fairy Miao Yin, and Lady White Rabbit, it was a waste to let them idle around. Now, they could be fully utilized. Eventually, even Bai Ningbing joined in. Because from her perspective, she allied with Fang Yuan to regain her male body. She needed to refine immortal level yin-yang rotation Gu. But when she realized that Fang Yuan was relying on Xianxia sect to refine Gu, she turned her attention to Xianxia sect. Regretfully, Xianxia sect did not trust the outsider Bai Ningbing. Fang Yuan also secretly disrupted their communication, causing Bai Ningbing to be forced to rely on him. She was Fang Yuan's ally. He had no rights to order her, but why would Fang Yuan waste her battle strength? Under Fang Yuan's special negotiation, Bai Ningbing believed Fang Yuan, as long as she killed more beasts and plants, she would obtain the sect contribution points that Fang Yuan was getting for them. He would use them to place a sect mission to refine yin-yang rotation Immortal Gu. Several days later. Sovereign Immortal Aperture, Mini Northern Plains. Large pieces of round snowflakes were descending from the sky. This special snowflake was pure white with the size of an adult's palm. This was rank 6 immortal material dancing snow. It was formed naturally, and would not melt as long as the temperature was kept at a certain level. It would always stay afloat, even if it landed to the ground, it would fly upwards instead. Fang Yuan inspected and saw no problems. He thought, these days, I finally finished arranging the snowman's betrothal gift, this project has been completed. The snowman wanted to have a marriage connection with Fang Yuan. Shuai would not come empty-handed, of course. She brought a gift. The main portion was the snow lotus essence. This was a specialty immortal material of the snowman. It was rare in treasure yellow heaven. Fang Yuan obtained quite a bit of it as he stored it in many northern plains. The second highest quantity was the dancing snow. It was coincidentally a rank 6 wisdom path immortal Gu's food. Fang Yuan could feed it 4 to 5 times with this batch. The difficulty of feeding rank 6 immortal Gu was very different from feeding rank 8 immortal Gu. This was a small surprise. Fang Yuan did not need to waste his effort going to treasure yellow heaven to purchase dancing snow. Other than that, there were some resources that were not so useful. Fang Yuan sold some and kept some. He perfectly utilized them. This is too little. If I can get more resources, my immortal aperture's development will be even faster. Since the snowmen want a marriage connection with me, just these gifts are insufficient. Fang Yuan sneered inside. He accepted all of the gifts but did not respond directly to the snowman's request for a marriage connection. When the Daoist Gu accumulated to a certain scale, Fang Yuan started his soul path cultivation again. Day after day, he immersed himself in cultivation. His soul foundation was growing at a rapid rate. Other than soul path, he even used the light of wisdom to modify killer moves. He had a great number of killer moves, they involved almost all paths. He needed to modify the useful killer moves from within them so that he could use them with his available immortal Gu. This would greatly increase his methods and battle strength. Fang Yuan was deep in cultivation, while Shadow Sect's members were exploring Tai Chio and fighting. Sixth Hair and Langya Land's spirit were refining immortal Gu for Fang Yuan. Almost everyone was busy with their goals, but Shuai became the most anxious one now. This beauty of the snowman tribe had an important mission from the snowmen, but Fang Yuan took the gifts without even seeing her. She was left hanging here without any attention given. Shuai had asked to meet Fang Yuan several times, but she was only a rank 6 Gu immortal while Fang Yuan had rank 8 battle strength. The two of them were too different in strength, and because he was in Langya blessed land, Fang Yuan rejected her each time. This way, Shuai could not meet him. She felt extremely dispirited. The worry and anger on her face became deeper each day. On this day, the snowman sent her a letter to rush her again, but Shuai had hope now. Because the snowman tribe saw that Shuai was making no progress, they discussed among themselves. They came to a consensus. Since Fang Yuan accepted the gifts, he wanted the marriage connection. But why did he not meet Shuai? It was because the gifts were not enough for his high status. Thus, the snowmen gathered some more gifts and sent it along with the letter to Shuai. What is this? I am the pride of the snowmen, my beauty is renowned. This time, I requested for a marriage connection and even brought sufficient gifts. But it was not enough to meet him even once. With heavy emotions, Shuai requested to meet Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan finally met her. But what he said to her was something out of her expectations. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1463, Testing Shuai. Chapter 1463, Testing Shuai. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Fang Yuan looked down toward Shuai. She was young and beautiful, she was tall and vibrant, she had blue eyes and hair, she had the icy trait of her variant human race. Her tender skin and plump chest would make countless men pay attention towards her. She was undoubtedly the #1 beauty of the snowman tribe. But Fang Yuan was unmoved by her beauty. Not just that, he even found trouble with her. This is the sincerity of the snowmen. Shuai could not understand what Fang Yuan meant. She quickly said, Lord Fang Yuan, please do not misunderstand. Such a small gift and you want to have a marriage connection with me? Your tribe is dreaming if they think it is so easy to gain help equivalent to that of a rank 8. Fang Yuan sneered. Shui was dazed. Fang Yuan spoke so plainly she could not accept it. She also felt some shame and anger in her heart. She was the cream of her generation, the publicly recognized #1 beauty. She was bringing gifts to request for a marriage connection. She was lowering her head in status. To think that Fang Yuan was so prideful and looked down on her, he was also extremely greedy, thinking that the snowman gift was insincere. How could it be little? The gift was very precious. The snowman tribe had picked all of it from their inventory specially for Fang Yuan. Originally, Shui had a good impression of Fang Yuan. After all, he had incredible talent and had rank 8 battle strength. It was an achievement that not many could attain. But now, her impression of him became rock bottom. With her temper, she would have left long ago. But now, it was not about her alone. She was tasked by her tribe for this important mission. Shui breathed in deeply, asking, Lord Fang Yuan, you have already taken 2 sets of gifts. I am sure you agree to our marriage connection. If you are unhappy with the gifts, you can give us your requests. I will bring them back for our elders to discuss. Fang Yuan had prepared the list long ago. An information path mortal Gu flew out of him and went to Shui. This? Shui took a look and her eyes popped out. Fang Yuan's greed was too shocking. But even when she was shocked, she was very beautiful. Her eyes were wide open. Even though she lost a portion of her coolness, she became quite cute. Not just this list. Fang Yuan added. You have other requests? Shui had an unsightly expression as she held down her anger. But Fang Yuan was confident and unabashed. He spoke matter-of-factly, if your tribe can meet my requirements, that would be enough. But you yourself have not expressed enough sincerity. My sincerity? Fang Yuan raised his head as he smiled. Not just anyone can become my wife, Fang Yuan's wife. Even though the snowman recommended you, your qualifications will depend on my test. Test? Shui gritted her teeth. Please explain to me, Lord Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan said, go to Taichio and collect souls for me. When you leave, someone will arrange it for you. Shui felt anguished. How could a genius like her be treated in such a cold manner? But due to the mission from her sect, she had to nod and agree. Seeing Shui leave, Fang Yuan pondered deeply. With this arrangement, he could make use of Shui's battle strength. There would be another person helping him cultivate faster. But that was not important. He was actually trying to probe them. Accepting the second gift while expressing his displeasure and wanting to test Shui, he showed his pride fully. This was to test the bottom line of the snowmen. Since they wanted a marriage connection, how much determination did they have? Or rather, the higher their determination, the more benefits Fang Yuan could squeeze out from them. Fang Yuan was not anxious. A marriage connection could not be decided in such a short time. Both sides were not familiar with each other yet. Even though Fang Yuan was probing them, the snowmen were also probing Fang Yuan. But Fang Yuan was sure that there were benefits to be gained here. The marriage connection was not the main thing. Fang Yuan quickly set it aside and placed his attention on his cultivation. Soul cultivation was one aspect, managing his immortal aperture was another. Other than that, Fang Yuan also used the light of wisdom to modify his killer moves. Fang Yuan's strongest method was undoubtedly immortal killer move reverse flow protection seal, but he was not modifying that now. Even though this move was not safe against Heavenly Court now, Fang Yuan was in no immediate danger. Not only was he in Northern Plains, he was also inside Langya Blessed Land. He had the concealment of Ghost Soldier garment. Heavenly Court could not find him in the meantime. And there was another reason, modifying reverse flow protection seal would take too much time, it was too slow. Fang Yuan thought about it and decided to modify Purple Mountain True Monarch's Wisdom Path killer moves. Why did he choose those? Firstly, these killer moves were very powerful and exceptional. Secondly, Fang Yuan had Grandmaster Wisdom Path attainment level, he was qualified to modify them. Finally, Fang Yuan had a batch of Wisdom Path Immortal Gu with him, they were left behind by Purple Mountain True Monarch. Purple Blood River Formation, Purple Thought Light Shield, Ignited Thought Flying Rock, Single Thought Flower Blossom, Purple Thought Perception Starlight, Directional Confusion Fog, Thought Body Defense, Single Thought Myriad Flow Elimination, and others. When Purple Mountain True Monarch was not in his peak condition, he used these methods to face Duke Long. Who was Duke Long? He was the master of Red Lotus, he had a huge background and unparalleled battle strength, he was at the peak of rank 8. When Fang Yuan was modifying his killer moves, Xianxia approached Shuai. "You are Shuai?" Xianxia asked. Shuai saw that Xianxia was smaller in stature than her, resembling a young girl. He had pale snow-like skin, he was wearing a flowery green dress, there were 2 pearl earrings hanging on his ears, as if water was inside the pearls, there were green ripples inside when they shook. Xianxia was in Fairy Chui Bo's body, he was very enchanting. If not so, Thousand Transformations' ancestor would not have made her his 3rd concubine and adored her deeply. Who is this beautiful immortal? What relationship does she have with Fang Yuan? This is not in our tribe's information, and she is a rank 7 Gu immortal. Shuai had lots of suspicions, but she smiled. "I am Shuai, beautiful sister, may I know what your name is?" Xianxia frowned. He was initially very excited about using Fairy Chui Bo's body. But after a while, he felt like it was getting very uncomfortable. Not long ago, he requested to Fang Yuan to change this body, even if he changed to a rank 6 body, it was fine as long as he could cultivate Soul Path. "Don't call me sister, you can call me brother Wuxia." Xianxia waved his hand, "Let's go, I will bring you to Tai Chiu and meet up with them. This is sect leader's test to you, we will see who obtains higher quality souls in the same period of time." "Yes." Shuai quickly answered, but she had many questions in her. She walked at the back as she stared at Xianxia, thinking, this female immortal is so weird, she wants me to call her brother. The two left Langya blessed land and reached Tai Chiu using the teleportation Gu formation. Once they entered Tai Chiu, Shuai felt nervous, after all, this was a famous place in northern plains for its danger level. At the same time, she felt uneasy towards the test, she only had rank 6 cultivation level and her investigative methods were her forte. "Come with me, quick quick quick. Time is very precious, we need to treasure every moment and use it to cultivate. We need to continue working hard, that is the true meaning of life." Xianxia continued to nag at Shuai, he was very determined. This was the effect of immortal killer move soaring fighting spirit. Shuai felt that Xianxia was really weird, she was so beautiful, but she acted like a rash lad, it was unimaginable. But are we too careless by flying like this? Shuai was worried, this was Tai Chiu, fierce beasts roamed everywhere, danger was everywhere. Flying around openly like this made them open targets. While flying, Shuai felt very nervous, she was afraid of a fierce beast assaulting her out of nowhere. But after flying for a while, her worry did not become real. In fact, her worry was fading, she felt deeply shocked internally. The area around the teleportation formation has been cleared by Langya sect and is in their control. They have actually explored Tai Chiu to this extent. It seems that Langya sect's strength surpasses my tribe's estimations. Shuai immediately sent this information back to the snowmen. "Oh. There are a group of dragon elephants." Suddenly, Shuai said. Xianxia who was traveling with her looked with surprise, he thought that this woman had some of her own worth. Xianxia's methods only found those dragon elephants a few breaths of time after Shuai. Shadow Sect's investigative methods were naturally superior to Shuai's, but in Xianxia's current body, those methods were restricted. "These dragon elephants are needed by sect leader, let's capture them." Xianxia changed his flying direction. Shuai was not surprised, because she had looked at Fang Yuan's list, there were dragon elephants listed on it. This group of dragon elephants was quite ordinary, there were only 2 or 3 desolate level dragon elephants. Xianxia quickly landed as he used his Soul Path Immortal Killer move. His soul howl reverberated among the dragon elephant group as they all fainted and fell unconscious. An impressive technique. Xue'er was slightly shocked, but a new question arose within. She has water path aura, why is she using a soul path method? Xianxia was most skilled in lead soul into dream, but the Gu worms to construct this move were kept by Fang Yuan. Only a few soul path immortal Gu were left for Xianxia. Thus, his main methods were soul path. Xianxia kept these dragon elephants in his immortal aperture as he continued on the journey with Xue'er. A moment later, they met with He Lulan. Another great beauty. Xue'er first frowned before her brows relaxed. She observed secretly, compared to Wu Xie, this person only has rank 6 cultivation level, she is the same as me. Xue'er let out a sigh of relief inside. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1464, No wonder Fang Yuan thinks little of me. Chapter 1464, No wonder Fang Yuan thinks little of me. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Xue'er was a talented descendant of the Snowman tribe. She was a genius, but the Snowman tribe undoubtedly had little resources. Xue'er was able to become rank 6 at such an age, it was quite incredible. But after meeting with Xianxia, she could not match this rank 7, although she showed nothing on the surface, she felt great pressure in her heart. Now that she saw a rank 6 immortal, her heavy heart became slightly lighter. Hi, you can call me Xue'er. Xue'er first introduced herself. She felt that she should be friendly to the people under Fang Yuan, to create a good relationship with them. Hello, you can call me Lulan. He Lulan smiled, her gaze flickered as she assessed Xue'er subtly. She thought, Snowman Gu immortal. Why did she approach us? Fang Yuan, what is he thinking? The snowman wanted a marriage connection with Fang Yuan, he did not inform anyone other than Xianxia. Thus, He Lulan only knew that Fang Yuan wanted the Shadow Sect immortals to take Xue'er along and work together in the meantime to explore Taichio. Alright, now that you've done the introductions, let's leave first. Xianxia said. He took out an information path Gu worm and used his method to learn about Fairy Miao Yin's and Lady White Rabbit's location. He Lulan, go ahead with your work, I will bring Xue'er to the others. Seeing the two of them leave, He Lulan had a thought. Her instincts told her that Xue'er joined them very suddenly and mysteriously, her goal was not simple. He Lulan was an ambitious person, even though she was under the alliance agreement and lost her freedom, she had been wanting to break free of Fang Yuan's control all along. Who would not want freedom? Wait, I'll go with you. I am in charge of finding the sharp tusk boars, but I can't find any. I will ask Miao Yin to help me find them. He Lulan said as she flew towards them. Xue'er was very happy, she wanted to get closer to He Lulan. He Lulan also wanted to probe information from her, she acted very warmly and kindly. Thus, with Xianxia at the lead, Xue'er and He Lulan traveled together behind him. Elder sister Lulan, I am very happy to meet you. Not long later, Xue'er addressed He Lulan as elder sister, placing herself at a lower status. This dumb woman. He Lulan snorted in her heart. She was once the victor of the imperial court contest, she had a deep hatred and lived with difficulty under her father's shadow, she was skilled at scheming. Compared to her, Xue'er lived peacefully in the Snowman tribe, due to her past, she was quite innocent in nature. He Lulan soon found that Xue'er wanted to know about the Shadow Sect immortals desperately. She made use of Xue'er's intention, she exposed some useful information while probing her. Xue'er was guarded of course, but she could not match He Lulan's scheming, just as she was about to expose herself, Xianxia interjected, isn't that a sharp tusk boar? He Lulan, you are very lucky, you will not need to owe Miao Yin a favor now. Following Xianxia's direction, Xue'er indeed saw an ancient desolate beast. It was huge and had bulky muscles, it was lying on the ground as it slept, it had a powerful aura. Shuai'er's heart jumped, with her battle strength, she was not the sharp tusk boar's match. He Lulan was interrupted, she felt angry but she could not retort to Ing Wuxia, she snorted and flew towards the sharp tusk boar. Sister Lulan, be careful. Shuai'er said in concern, she praised in her heart, this Sister Lulan that she had just met was really courageous. But with her rank 6 cultivation level, how could she deal with the sharp tusk boar? She had to rely on this fairy Chui bow after all. But the following scene made Shuai'er completely stunned. He Lulan was even fiercer than the sharp tusk boar. When she fought, her aura changed instantly, she was blazing in flames, her heaven-blazing flames were terrifyingly powerful. Rank 6 Immortal Gu, Rank 7 Immortal Gu, so many Immortal Gu. Shuai'er watched the battle and her eyelids twitched, she saw how rich He Lulan was. He Lulan had obtained Blazing Heaven Demoness Inheritance and Immortal Gu. Fang Yuan did not take them since he had enough Immortal Gu, leaving them for He Lulan would allow her to fight effectively and obtain more souls. Under He Lulan's terrifying attacks, the sharp tusk boar was first furious before going into a frenzy and escaping after losing. Shuai'er was very shocked. He Lulan exploded with battle strength that was on par with rank 7 experts, it was out of Shuai'er's expectations. Sister Lulan is so strong. Her immortal killer moves are so powerful and overwhelming. But she clearly has strength path aura, why is she using fire path methods? Mixed in with her shock was suspicion. Shuai'er did not understand. Fairy Chui Bo had water path aura, but she used soul path methods. And now this He Lulan was a strength path Gu immortal but used fire path instead. Alright, let's continue. A moment later, He Lulan collected the sharp tusk boar corpse, including its ancient desolate soul as well. Sister Lulan, you are amazing. Shuai'er looked at He Lulan with an incredulous gaze. He Lulan shook her head, this is nothing. No, you are really amazing. You have rank 6 Gu immortal cultivation level but rank 7 battle strength. This is not achievable by normal Gu immortals. Shuai'er waved her hands. He Lulan smiled bitterly, this is really nothing, in Shadow Sect, I am very ordinary. Shuai'er heard He Lulan's reply and her heart jumped. He Lulan, when you see them, you will understand. Let's go. He Lulan had completed her mission, but she did not return directly, she decided to find the other Shadow Sect Gu immortals with Shuai'er. A while later, they successfully met up with Fairy Miao Yin and Lady White Rabbit. Lady White Rabbit had rank 6 cultivation level normally, she did not have He Lulan's battle strength, it was dangerous for her to explore Tai Chiu alone. Thus, Fang Yuan let her and Fairy Miao Yin work together. Of course, when she became Black Tigress, her cultivation level and battle strength would rise to rank 7. However, her Black Tigress state was unstable and could not last long, it had its drawbacks. Hello Shuai'er. Fairy Miao Yin smiled kindly. You are a snowman Gu immortal. This is the first time I am seeing one. Lady White Rabbit said faintly. What situation is this? Shuai'er was suspicious and depressed. Fairy Miao Yin was a publicly recognized fairy in southern borders Gu immortal world. She had a beautiful body and alluring face, she wore a pinkish-red dress and looked extremely enchanting. As for Lady White Rabbit, she had pale white skin and huge innocent eyes, she was completely pure. Her aura was different from Fairy Miao Yin, even at first glance, Shuai'er felt that she was very cute, she had a feeling of adoration and trust towards her. Shuai'er analyzed closely. She found that Fairy Miao Yin had rank 7 cultivation level while Lady White Rabbit had rank 6, similar to her. But after the matter of He Lulan, Shuai'er no longer dared to look at Lady White Rabbit as an ordinary rank 6 Gu immortal. The Gu immortals conversed for a while, everyone was very kind and warm to Shuai'er, but they were naturally curious about her. Shuai'er was very tight-lipped. It was not that she became scheming, but because there were many people who were all beauties, Shuai'er felt incredibly pressured. Why was she here? To have a marriage connection with Fang Yuan. Now, She had to proclaim herself as Fang Yuan's future wife in front of so many people. Wasn't that just provoking them? Wasn't she too shameless? At the same time, a question pressed down on Shuai like a mountain. What relationship do these female immortals have with Fang Yuan? Actually, Fang Yuan had a clear and simple relationship with them. But Shuai was an outsider. She could not help but assume wrong things the first time she met them. This was not strange. It was normal mentality. Alright, you have already met us Shadow Sect Gu immortals. Other than us, there is one final person, a special one. Xianxia said. Special? Shuai's heart tensed. She wanted to ask, special as in the relationship they have with Fang Yuan. Are they a male or a female? But Shuai did not ask directly, as Xianxia continued to speak. This person is by Ningbing. She is not a member of Shadow Sect, but she is our ally. We have fought together, even though she only has rank 6 cultivation level. Among us, she has the highest battle strength. Xianxia hesitated a little at the final sentence. But the other Gu immortals said nothing about it. He Lu Lan's battle strength was weaker than by Ningbing. After all, great strength true martial physique was incompatible with a fire path inheritance. Fairy Miao Yin's battle strength was about the same as He Lu Lan. Lady White Rabbit could be disregarded. As for after becoming Black Tigress, she would be vicious but lacking in methods. Originally, Xianxia had the highest battle strength, but his reliance was on Led Soul into Dream, whose immortal Gu have been taken by Fang Yuan. Thus, Bai Ningbing, who inherited Bai Xiang's true inheritance and had the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique, was the strongest among them. Even stronger than Sister Lu Lan. Shuai could not believe it. He Lu Lan said, I merely have mid-tier battle strength among us. Shuai opened her eyes in shock, thinking, my heavens, why are there a bunch of monsters here? Rank 6 cultivation level but having the highest battle strength. Who exactly is this person? How high is their battle talent? Now, let us bring you there. I told you these things in advance so you can take note. She has a different relationship with us. Xianxia continued to lead the way. Soon, they arrived at Bai Ningbing's location. Boom boom boom. Intense explosions resounded in the immortals' ears like thunder. Roar. Next, the immortals heard a loud and pitiful sound that resembled the cry of a dying beast. This is. When the immortals arrived, Shuai was shocked to see that Bai Ningbing was alone in the battlefield. Around her was a ring of ancient desolate beasts. All of you came at a right time. I found a good place. Bai Ningbing stopped the killer move by Xiang as she went towards the immortals. Shuai was greatly shocked. So beautiful. Bai Ningbing's beauty and aura was simply breathtaking. Even the genius Shuai was shaken. She thought, there is such a beautiful person that exists. If she knew that Bai Ningbing was a male turned into a female, who knew how she would feel? Shuai thought, why is Fang Yuan surrounded by so many beauties? And they are such talented people. No wonder he thinks little of me. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1465, Explosive Growth in Battle Strength. Chapter 1465, Explosive Growth in Battle Strength. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Langya Blessed Land, Cloud Cover Continent. Fang Yuan was alone, in a huge field of cloud soil. Taking in a deep breath, he calmed his mind and started to use his immortal killer move. Ignited Thought Flying Rock. Fang Yuan called in his mind. His eyes flickered with crystal purple light, thoughts clashed in his mind as small rocks resembling charcoal appeared around his body. These rocks seemed to be burning in flames, but they had no heat. Go! Fang Yuan willed as the rocks floating around his body shot out. The rocks tore through the sky, but there was silence during the attack. At the same time, these rocks expanded and became larger, turning from thumb size to basin size in a moment. Next, they expanded to the size of horse carriages. The rocks became giant rocks, the surface was blazing with red flames. The blazing rocks numbered from hundreds to thousands. At once, the entire sky was dyed red. Next, the blazing rocks landed on the cloud soil and created a field of flames that had neither heat nor made a sound. These were not real blazing rocks, they were formed from thoughts in actuality. This was Purple Mountain True Monarch's main attacking method: ignited thought flying rock. It could burn the target's thoughts. There was a consecutive move with it, called Single Thought Flower Blossom. After the blazing rocks exploded, Fang Yuan pointed with the index finger of his right hand. Instantly, the flames extinguished as flowers bloomed in the pits created. Countless flowers were fighting to emerge and blossom. The flowers were vibrant and colorful. The surrounding area was dyed by a multicolored field of rainbow flowers. It is a pity my target is not a Gu immortal, but this cloud soil without thoughts. These flowers are useless and exist only as decorations. Fang Yuan willed as the flowers vanished instantly. Fang Yuan's body shook. Immortal killer move, single thought endless clones. Instantly, he was surrounded by countless figures. Initially, there were only a few dozen purple silhouettes, but after a few breaths' time, they had grown to the number of several 100,000. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan's true body was concealed within them. He could not be found without a powerful investigative killer move. This move was very similar to Fang Yuan's own original tactic. That was to use myriad self and familiar face to act as one of the strength path phantoms, concealing himself to become indiscernible. Purple Mountain True Monarch's move was superior in that it was just one move, but had the effect of Fang Yuan's two moves, myriad self and familiar face. Therefore, it expended less immortal essence. There was another advantage: the speed of the purple silhouettes grew at a faster rate than the strength path phantoms. But the disadvantage was that these purple silhouettes did not have offensive power, they were purely for concealment. Meanwhile, the strength path phantoms had offensive power themselves. Fang Yuan stopped using single thought endless clones as he stretched out both palms, pushing out a wave of fog. This was Immortal Killer Move Directional Confusion Fog. It could make Gu immortals lose their sense of direction. Next, Fang Yuan used Thought Body Defense, Single Thought Myriad Flow Elimination, and others. He got familiar with them and used them successfully. He placed his focus towards the end. Immortal Killer Move, Purple Thought Perception Starlight. This move was the most complex, but it had a powerful and incredible effect. It could allow the user to learn about the profundities of the enemy's killer move with every hit, and continuously gain information about them. Once they collect enough information, Fang Yuan would be able to use wisdom path methods to deal with the enemy's killer move during the battle itself. Next, the immortal killer move Brilliant Will Dissolution would be used to unravel the enemy's killer move and attain victory. Fang Yuan tried to use it. Purple Thought Perception Starlight was indeed filled with many steps. Fang Yuan only succeeded after 3 tries. During this process, he suffered injuries. But with man as before, Fang Yuan was not afraid of such injuries. After these days of practicing, I have already grasped most of Purple Mountain True Monarch's methods. Fang Yuan thought. At this time, half a month had already passed since Xianxia approached him. During these days, Fang Yuan mainly cultivated Soul Path to increase his soul foundation. Right now, he had 10 million man soul already. The Immortal Aperture's development was progressing smoothly and steadily. Other than this, he was practicing killer moves. Killer moves needed practice, because each activation carried a risk. If the activation failed, one would be causing harm to themselves. Fang Yuan had countless inheritances, and had a vast number of killer moves. However, the foundation of killer moves were Immortal Gu. Fang Yuan decided to first train Purple Mountain True Monarch's Wisdom Path killer moves. Purple Mountain True Monarch was a first-generation split soul purple. His methods could contest Duke Long, they were naturally very powerful. Furthermore, before his death, he left most of his Wisdom Path Immortal Gu to Fang Yuan. Thus, Fang Yuan had the foundation to use Purple Mountain True Monarch's immortal killer moves. Of course, he did not have all of Purple Mountain True Monarch's immortal Gu, there were quite some missing. But it was not a problem for Fang Yuan, with his Grandmaster Wisdom Path attainment level, and the most important Light of Wisdom to rely on, he could rapidly modify killer moves. Right now, the wisdom path killer moves that he was using were modified to some extent. After this session, Fan Yuan went to Wisdom Gu. He sat beside Wisdom Gu and bathed in the light of wisdom, thinking and concluding his gains from this training session. Every time after practice, he would think about the experience and use his gains to modify the killer moves even further. The creation of many killer moves relied on the Gu immortal's own experiences, habits, and personality. These killer moves were other people's killer moves, they were not as fitting to Fan Yuan as his self-created myriad self and strength path giant hand. Thus, Fan Yuan had to continue modifying them. A moment later, Fan Yuan finished his thinking session. There was nothing he could do to modify Purple Mountain True Monarch's immortal killer moves anymore. After these days of practicing and modifying, I have finally reached the limit. Only when my wisdom path attainment reaches a qualitative change can I continue to modify these moves. After understanding this, Fan Yuan did not force it anymore. His deductions today were not focusing on this, he was trying to complete immortal killer move Eat Strength. Originally, Fan Yuan had Immortal Gu Eat Strength, he could expend Immortal Essence to activate the Immortal Gu and increase his strength path Dao marks. It was a pity that such a useful Immortal Gu was destroyed. But it was not a problem, all of the different paths led to the same origin. Fan Yuan had so many Immortal Gu and the Light of Wisdom to help him, he could rapidly deduce Immortal Killer move Eat Strength. Such an Immortal Killer move could totally replace the use of Eat Strength Immortal Gu. My deduction succeeded. A few minutes later, Fan Yuan left Wisdom Gu with a feeling of satisfaction. He started deducing Immortal Killer move Eat Strength 6 days ago, he had finally succeeded. This rank 6 Immortal Killer move used Snack Immortal Gu as the core, with other Strength Path Immortal Gu as the supplementary Gu. A Gu Immortal could expend Strength Path Immortal materials to help them increase their Strength Path Dao marks. The result of one cultivation session was better than rank 6 Immortal Gu Eat Strength. But the expended Immortal Essence was higher too, because too many Gu worms were involved, it was not as convenient as using Eat Strength Immortal Gu alone. In conclusion, there were advantages and disadvantages. For the following days, other than practicing Purple Mountain True Monarch's Wisdom Path killer moves, Fan Yuan used Eat Strength to increase his Strength Path Dao marks. He had the most number of Transformation Path Dao marks now, about 50,000. After that were Ice and Snow Path, Luck Path, Chi Path, and Sound Path, they all had over 10,000 Dao marks. He had few Strength Path Dao marks, he did not undergo any Strength Path related tribulations, and the immortal apertures that he annexed were not from Strength Path either. This time, he focused on fixing this problem. Fan Yuan had considered it deeply before choosing Strength Path. His strongest methods now were Reverse Flow Protection Seal and Myriad Dragon. The former was defense while the latter was offense. Both were related to Strength Path, raising Strength Path Dao marks would raise the upper limit of his battle strength very evidently. As for the Wisdom Path killer moves from Purple Mountain True Monarch, they were meant to increase Fan Yuan's variety of methods, what truly decided his upper limit of strength was Reverse Flow Protection Seal. Fan Yuan trained with hard work and used his time to the limit, every second of his time was spent purposefully. This safe environment was really rare. Since rebirth, this was the first time Fan Yuan had such a prime opportunity to raise his strength and deepen his foundation. Immortal aperture development, practicing killer moves, cultivating soul path, almost every day, Fan Yuan progressed further. His speed of improvement was unheard of, even Langya Land's spirit was secretly shocked. This was what Heavenly Court had predicted. After getting Shadow Sect's inheritance, Fan Yuan's foundation was unfathomably deep. Now that he could make use of it, his strength would grow explosively. Ever since Shui joined up with the Shadow Sect Immortals, she had acted very obediently and diligently. Even though her battle strength was lacking, she was skilled in the investigative aspect. She worked with the Shadow Sect Immortals and hunted many souls for Fan Yuan. Fan Yuan was cold towards the marriage connection, causing some conflict in the Snowman tribe. Shui's grandmother, Bing Yuan, proposed to send Fan Yuan another gift to express their goodwill. But some of the Snowman Gu immortals led by Bing Feng objected to it. They felt that the price of a marriage connection with Fan Yuan was too big, they would rather endure the suppression of the Rock Men. Because of Shadow Sex members, Langya's sex development in exploring Tai Chiu became quicker. Langya Lan's spirit was extremely happy, he became very pleased with Fang Yuan. On this day, Fang Yuan was sitting with his eyes closed, his consciousness working on developing his immortal aperture, when he suddenly received a request for help. At the same time as when he opened his eyes, Langya Lan's spirit also teleported towards Fang Yuan. Elder Fang Yuan, quickly go help. An immemorial desolate beast has appeared in Tai Chiu, it has trapped several Gu immortals from our sect. Langya Lan's spirit had a nervous expression as he spoke anxiously. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1466, a bit weak. Chapter 1466, a bit weak. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Roar. A loud sound resembling thunder exploded around the hairy man Gu immortals. At the same time, a huge dragon head charged towards them like a hill. A huge shadow was casted over the immortals. Before it even hit, the strong air currents blew out with threatening aura, making everyone lose their confidence in defending themselves. We're finished. 3 hairy man Gu immortals were covered in sweat, one of them was lying on the ground. Seeing that they were about to die, at this moment, the 3 hairy men heard a cold voice, useless. The 3 hairy man Gu immortals were overjoyed even though they were insulted, they shouted, "We are here, Fairy Ning Bing, save us." During the moment of danger, a white figure flew towards them, it was Dragon Lady by Ning Bing. She snorted coldly and raised her hands. Crack. At the next moment, an ice wall emerged and shielded the 3 hairy man Gu immortals. Bam! In just a breath's time, the giant dragon head crashed into the ice wall. The ice wall could not take it and shattered. But Bai Ning Bing had already pulled the 3 hairy man Gu immortals back as they retreated. At the same time, cold light shot out of her eyes and landed on the dragon head. The vicious dragon head was soon covered in a layer of white frost, its speed had fallen drastically. Bai Ning Bing internally let out a sigh of relief. After that instance of combat, she had already deduced that the dragon head was only rank 7 level, with her battle strength, she could easily deal with it. But immemorial desolate beast myriad head coiling dragon has 10,000 heads. I can deal with 1 head, but if the other dragon heads join in the battle, I will be outmatched. After all, 2 fists cannot rival 4 hands. Bai Ning Bing looked at the sky as she frowned. This was not the ordinary Tai Chiu world, it was a dark formation path space. The myriad head coiling dragon was a formation path immemorial desolate beast, it could create formation path spaces just like how the upper extreme heavenly eagle could enter and exit grotto heavens, it was the immemorial desolate beast's latent ability. I need to get out of this place and return to the outside world. I hoping Wu Xie and the rest can hold on. At this moment, in the outside world of Tai Chiu, He Lu Lan and the others were flying around in the sky, facing hundreds of dragons on the ground. They used their methods and unleashed an array of attacks endlessly. It was a grand scene. The green giant grass in Tai Chiu were as tall as trees, they grew in large numbers, resembling a forest. Within the giant grass, hundreds of dragons had varying forms, they either had golden scales, horns on their foreheads, 3 dragon eyes, or sharp teeth. Their bodies were wavering, but their heads were high in the sky, much taller than the grass here. These were all dragon heads, part of the myriad head coiling dragon, the tails were deeply buried under the soil, all of the 10,000 dragons were of the same origin. Meanwhile, He Lu Lan flew in circles like an eagle, she continued to unleash killer moves that rained down like fireworks. Dragon roars resounded, they were not passively taking hits, they retaliated continuously. Most of them were breathing out dragon breaths, some were spitting out poison, while some had dragon eyes shooting out light. Ignoring the dragon head that went to deal with Bai Ning Bing, there are 3 rank 7 dragon heads. The rest are rank 6 level. We have not found any wild immortal Gu yet, but be careful. Don't get close, you will be dragged into the formation path space of the myriad-head coiling dragon. He Lu Lan, Xianxia, and the rest conversed while they fought at the same time. Lang Yalan's spirit asked Fang Yuan for help, he had to respond. Firstly, this rescue mission had a lot of rewards, it was quite enticing. Secondly, Fang Yuan was a supreme elder of Langya sect, he could not ignore this, it would violate his alliance agreement. Thus, while rushing there, Fang Yuan ordered Xianxia and the rest to help first and stall for time. As the battle got more intense, not much time had passed, but Xianxia and the rest were already feeling great pressure. Oh no! More and more dragon heads are awakening. If this goes on, the immemorial dragon head will awaken, not only will we fail to save them, we will lose our lives. When will sect leader arrive? We are deep within Tai Chiu, the teleportation formation is far away, he needs some time. Be careful. While conversing, a rank 7 dragon head woke up and emerged from the ground, roaring as it shot out a silver dragon breath. He Lu Lan narrowly avoided it as Xianxia pondered and said to Lady White Rabbit and Shui, stay back and help us out from a distance. Shui only had rank 6 cultivation level, her mind was shaking and she was barely putting up a fight. Even though she was the genius of the snowmen, she could not be compared to He Lu Lan and the rest, she did not try to force herself, she retreated with Lady White Rabbit. Is it fine for us to retreat? Lady White Rabbit was very worried. Shui rolled her eyes at her, let's listen to Fairy Wuxia, with our battle strength, we will only hold them back. The immortals resisted for a while longer, more dragon heads were awakening and joining the combat. 1,000 dragon bodies were moving about, dragon heads were roaring, He Lu Lan and the rest were fully suppressed. Thankfully, myriad head coiling dragon was a very special type of immemorial desolate beast, once it was born, it could not move, even though there were many dragon heads, they could only defend their territory, they could not pursue enemies. Even so, 1,000 dragon heads' breaths were incredibly powerful, He Lu Lan and the rest retreated time and again, they could barely resist it. Oh no, the situation is getting worse. Bai Ningbing is still not out yet, I'm afraid she's unable to escape from the enemy's trap. He Lu Lan and the rest were right, Bai Ningbing was fighting desperately inside the formation path space. To defend those 3 hairy man Gu immortals, she was very restricted. But right at this time, an indescribable aura spread throughout the place. A huge dragon head that surpassed all others slowly rose up. The immemorial dragon head had awakened. Its eyes were hazy, its eyelids were drooping, it had yet to awaken fully, but it already created immense pressure in the Gu immortals. Damn it! What should we do? The immortals were hesitating when Xianxia ordered, we will retreat. They were only rank 6 and 7, how could they resist rank 8? They could only retreat, giving up on Bai Ningbing and the 3 hairy man Gu immortals. But right at this moment, the immemorial dragon head opened its mouth and sucked in. Instantly, the world changed, Xianxia and the rest were all dragged into the formation path space without putting up resistance. Immemorial dragon head. Bai Ningbing was shaken, she turned to look at Xianxia and the rest, frowning and asking, where is Fang Yuan? Xianxia and the rest smiled bitterly. Thankfully, the immemorial dragon head only trapped the shadow sect immortals and did not attack, the dragon head faded into the formation path space in a few breaths of time. It had rank 8 battle strength, from its perspective, rank 6 and 7 Gu immortals were insignificant, it did not need to fight. It let the other dragon heads handle this battle. Thus, 1,000 dragon heads appeared all around the shadow sect immortals. Xianxia and the rest fell into a difficult battle. The scene now was different from before, these dragon heads could move easily in the formation path space, they could appear and vanish at times, they were no longer trapped at their original spot. The immortals tried and could not break out of the formation path space, they could only unite and fight together, resisting a desperate battle. In the dangerous battle, all of the immortals suffered injuries. The 3 hairy man Gu immortals, Shui and Lady White Rabbit barely managed to survive. Gradually, the Shadow Sect immortals could no longer care about the weak. One hairy man Gu immortal was the first to die. Xianxia gasped as she could not escape in time. She was surrounded by several dragon heads. To think that I will die here. Xianxia could not stop them, she could only shut her eyes and wait for death, but a dark figure flew in and dragged her out. What are you all doing? Why did I have to come out and salvage the situation? The pressure of survival made Lady White Rabbit turned into Black Tigress again. She was the one who saved Xianxia. Xianxia was dazed. You are Lady White Rabbit. I am not that weakling. Black Tigress smiled coldly, she looked at Xianxia in disdain. Xianxia was speechless. She finally understood, Fang Yuan's subordinates, the members of Shadow Sect, were all monsters. Compared to them, she was the weakest. With Black Tigress' help, the scene finally stabilized. But good times did not last. More and more dragon heads appeared. The immemorial desolate beast myriad head coiling dragon was finally starting to show its terrifying battle strength. The immortals could only defend themselves, they could not escape. Their hope was all in Fang Yuan. But when was Fang Yuan going to arrive? After such a long period of fighting, Fang Yuan should have arrived already. But soon, the Shadow Sect immortals realized that this formation path space had time path elements in it. The rate of time was very different from the outside world. This realization was like a huge rock that weighed on the Gu immortals' hearts. But gradually, Xianxia and the rest found out that the number of dragon heads in the formation path space was shrinking. Their pressure was decreasing, they stabilized in this dangerous situation again. Fang Yuan must be here. After realizing this, the immortals rose in morale. But Xianxia could not help but feel worried. I wonder what the battle outside is like. Even though Fang Yuan has rank 8 battle strength, can he resist this rank 8 myriad head coiling dragon? While thinking about this, the formation path space broke and everyone returned to the outside world. Ah! Looking at the scenery, Xianxia could not help but gasp in shock. The ground was covered in rivers of blood, countless dragons were lying on the ground, the surrounding area was covered in corpses. That immemorial dragon head was growling in pain, it was no longer as imposing as before. And Fang Yuan was everywhere. Single thought endless clones. Xianxia muttered, recognizing Fang Yuan's immortal killer move. Fang Yuan was concealing himself among the countless silhouettes, but that immemorial dragon head had no way to figure out where Fang Yuan was. Ignited thought flying rock. Countless flaming rocks were landing on myriad head coiling dragon's body, making a large number of dragon heads fall to the ground. They had thought of getting up, but the thought was extinguished instantly by the flames. Single thought flower blossom. Fang Yuan shifted his thoughts, countless beautiful flowers bloomed on the dragon bodies. They felt that their strength was sapped away as the strong dragon heads fell into weakness. The flowers were used as fuel to strengthen the flames in their mind. These attacks quickly defeated the rank 6 and 7 dragon heads, they sprawled on the ground like fat earthworms. Only the immemorial dragon head had a powerful aura, but as it could not find Fang Yuan's main body, its battle strength was useless. This is the power of wisdom path killer moves. I can see how powerful Purple Mountain True Monarch was from this. Fang Yuan sighed to himself internally. At this moment, the immemorial dragon head saw Xianxia and the rest, it changed target and assaulted them. The remaining 2 hairy man Gu immortals shrieked uncontrollably. Fang Yuan's main body emerged and blocked the dragon head's path. Be careful. Xianxia shouted as she saw the immemorial dragon head crash into Fang Yuan's body with much fear. The huge force sent Fang Yuan flying, but he quickly flew back again. In contrast, the immemorial dragon head was covered in blood, it was in a pathetic state. Reverse flow protection seal rendered Heavenly Court's Gu immortals without options, the power of it was not a joke. Using this chance, the Shadow Sect immortals managed to retreat to a safe distance. Without any lingering burden, Fang Yuan engaged in a fight with the immemorial dragon head. So strong. Shuai was completely dazed from watching. She watched how Fang Yuan gained the upper hand and killed the immemorial dragon head eventually. This immemorial desolate beast is a bit weak. When the battle ended, Fang Yuan looked down at the immemorial dragon head that was cut off, and the 1,000 dragon heads lingering on the ground as he sighed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1467, The View of a Rank 8. Chapter 1467, The View of a Rank 8. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. We're saved. Lord Fang Yuan is invincible. The two hairy man Gu immortals saw Fang Yuan defeating the myriad-head coiling dragon. They cheered loudly and expressed their joy of surviving the ordeal. But the Shadow Sect immortals were silent. Bai Ningbing snorted. Ingwu Xia had a look of nostalgia. After seeing these wisdom path killer moves again, he thought of the sacrificed Purple Mountain true monarch. He Lulan was silent. The stronger Fang Yuan became, the smaller her chances of escaping. Shuai blinked in succession. She was mentally shaken. Looking at the ravaged battlefield, she understood why the tribe wanted to have a marriage connection with Fang Yuan. This is rank 8 battle strength. Ordinary immemorial desolate beasts cannot deal with Gu immortals that have rank 8 battle strength. Because humans possess intelligence and wisdom, we can use countless immortal killer moves. Being married to this man, even if we only rely on this connection, our tribe will no longer be bullied by the rock men. If we can use his help, the entire tribe will be lifted. We will definitely prosper. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan stared at the dragon corpse and the fallen dragon heads, collating his gains and losses. Immemorial desolate beasts had rank 8 battle strength, but they were still classified into different tiers. This myriad-head coiling dragon was one of the weaker ones among immemorial desolate beasts. It was not in good condition. It had just woken up from sleep and was countered by Fang Yuan's wisdom path killer moves. If Fang Yuan used other methods or fought by charging in, he might have had to spend more effort. But ignited thought flying rock had an incredible effect that dealt with it easily. How should I deal with this myriad-head coiling dragon? Without the immemorial dragon head, it is only ancient desolate level now. But it still has its foundation. In time, a new ancient dragon head will become immemorial level. This type of formation path immemorial desolate beast was very rare. Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture was in its development stage. He first thought of moving this myriad-head coiling dragon into his immortal aperture. But regretfully, once the myriad-head coiling dragon is in the ground, it could no longer be moved. It was not just deep underground, it was connected to the earth vein. It grew from extracting nutrients from the earth vein. Thus, if the surrounding soil was dug up, the myriad-head coiling dragon would lose its connection to the myriad-head coiling dragon. It would lose its life. Ordinary Gu immortals might be without options, but Fang Yuan had methods. Be it Shadow Sect's inheritances or Xianxia Sect's inheritances, they had countless methods to relocate the myriad-head coiling dragon. But Fang Yuan gave up this alluring idea after considering it. The reason was simple: these methods needed immortal Gu that Fang Yuan did not have. Even if he used the light of wisdom, the time, effort, and resources needed were huge. It was not worth it for just this immemorial desolate beast. But to kill it and sell off its body parts was a huge waste. After all, an immemorial desolate beast that was alive had greater value than a dead one. Thoughts clashed in Fang Yuan's mind as he thought of the best way to resolve this: Xianxia Sect. He had just prepared to contact Xianxia Land Spirit when Xianxia Land Spirit already contacted him using information path Mortal Gu. Xianxia Land Spirit was also very happy. Fang Yuan was able to defeat the immemorial desolate beast and save two hairy man Gu immortals. He wanted to thank Fang Yuan and had a warm tone. Fang Yuan smiled silently. The status of a rank 8 Gu immortal was totally different. In the absence of rank 9, rank 8s were the dominating overlords. Each rank 8 Gu immortal caused great influences in their every action. Even though Fang Yuan did not have rank 8 cultivation level, having only rank 8 battle strength and being considered a quasi-rank 8, he could already feel how amazing it was to be a rank 8 at this moment. Fang Yuan said to Xianxia Land Spirit, "This myriad-head coiling dragon is still alive, a new immemorial dragon head will regrow in the future. I want to sell this immemorial desolate beast to Xianxia sect, first Supreme Elder, how many sect contribution points can I get for this?" Xianxia Land Spirit was dazed before shouting, "Great idea." Xianxia sect was exploring Taichio, they could use an immemorial desolate beast's corpse to create a teleportation immortal formation. This was a base point for them. Using this base, they could explore outwards and gain more resources from Taichio. But in the huge Taichio, just one base was not enough. Like this time, because of the distance, it was not easy to rescue them. This myriad-head coiling dragon is a natural immortal formation, we do not need to do anything, as long as we subdue it, we will be able to create a second base. As for sect contribution points, Xianxia Land Spirit considered before giving Fang Yuan a number he was satisfied with. Fang Yuan had to refine a large number of immortal Gu earlier, his sect contribution points had dwindled, he needed to replenish them so that he could refine Gu again. Right now, Fang Yuan was handing out a Gu refinement mission, his main goal was Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu. After settling his loot, Fang Yuan led the immortals back victoriously. The Shadow Sect immortals were all injured, He Lu Lan had the heaviest injuries. Even though the fire path methods were good, it was not compatible with her great strength true martial physique. Unfortunately, Fang Yuan needed to develop his strength path too, there was a conflict between them. Fang Yuan had to satisfy his own needs first before he could pass down excessive Gu worms to raise the Shadow Sect immortal strength. After all, Heavenly Court was too strong, their strength was needed for Fang Yuan to gain a decisive victory in the future. However, I can modify her fire path killer moves to make them more compatible. I can even modify this strength path immortal killer moves for her to use. Fang Yuan thought. He Lu Lan was still very loyal due to Shadow Sect's alliance agreement. But in Fang Yuan's mind, Fairy Miao Yin and Lady White Rabbit were more trustworthy. At the same time, Fang Yuan had a way to restrict He Lu Lan, that was her father-come-enemy, He Cheng. This huge trump card had always been in Fang Yuan's hands, He Lu Lan was kept in the dark. I can nurture He Lu Lan slightly, modifying these killer moves is very easy, the expended time and effort is low, I can do it rapidly. Thus, for the next few days, Shadow Sect's immortals healed themselves while He Lu Lan's injuries slowly recovered, she was only mildly injured. Fang Yuan handed Star Eye's immortal Gu to her and let her use it to refine the stars in the sky. Fang Yuan chose a huge star, when he was in southern border disguised as Wu Yi Hai, there were too many people, he could not casually refine the stars. There was little development in this, it kept dragging on until now. Fang Yuan did not have the time or energy for this. He passed Star Eye's immortal Gu to He Lu Lan and made her use her time to refine the star, allowing Star Eye's immortal Gu to display its worth. When He Lu Lan succeeded, Fang Yuan would give her the modified immortal killer moves as the reward. Fang Yuan had created an organization in his previous life. To nurture a person, they could not be given rewards for no reason and at a rapid pace. Breaking the rules of advancement was a huge problem for organizations. Any act of promotion or demotion needed to have appropriate reasons. If there was no reason for it, then he should create a reason. Fang Yuan was very experienced in this. After the matter of the myriad-head coiling dragon, Fang Yuan realized that the Shadow Sect immortals also needed more battle strength. When they got stronger, they would be more helpful to Fang Yuan. However, the most important thing now was Fang Yuan's own development. The most reliable person was himself, a truly mature person would never rely on others in times of need. The Shadow Sect immortals were merely icing on the cake for Fang Yuan. After returning to his Cloud City, Fang Yuan took out a rank 6 strength path immortal material. Next, he used immortal killer move Eat Strength. A moment later, this pure strength path immortal material had melted, a small portion of the Tao marks in it had been transferred to Fang Yuan. Using perceivable Dao immortal Gu to check it, his strength path Dao marks did not grow by much. Fang Yuan was not disappointed, this was an expected result. The main way for Gu immortals to increase their Dao marks was through tribulations. For Fang Yuan, he had another immortal aperture annexing method. As for each strength killer move, it could only slowly accumulate, there would only be effect after a long time. Thus now, when dealing with the myriad head coiling dragon, even though he gained some strength path Dao marks, his battle strength did not rise much. However, if I can refine Snack Immortal Gu into the rank 7 Big Snack, I can modify each strength so that the gain in my strength path Dao marks will be more evident and achieve a qualitative change. This thought appeared in Fang Yuan's mind before rapidly vanishing. Refining Snack Immortal Gu into Big Snack Immortal Gu was alluring, but it was not the appropriate time to do that now. Refining Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu was the main priority, and Fang Yuan was continuing his immortal aperture development to satisfy the needs of his immortal Gu in terms of food. The latter expended almost all of his finances. How long had it been? His 10 million immortal essence stones had already started depleting. But his great efforts also gave him great rewards, he had already completed more than half of his basic development. My soul foundation has already reached 10 million man soul, let's continue like this. In terms of killer moves, I am already familiar with Purple Mountain True Monarch's Wisdom Path killer moves, next, I will modify Bo Qing's Sword Path killer moves. In terms of Wisdom Path, Fang Yuan had Grandmaster attainment level, he also had Wisdom Path Immortal Gu, it was naturally his priority. In terms of Sword Path, even though he had several Sword Path Immortal Gu, he lacked the attainment level for it, it was lower on his priority. In terms of Soul Path, not only did he lack attainment level, he also lacked Immortal Gu, he only had rank 7 Changed Soul and rank 6 Cleansed Soul, it was even lower on the priority list. Fang Yuan had been preparing himself, he had considered his options thoroughly. At the same time as modifying Bo Qing's Sword Path killer moves, I will also modify some killer moves for He Lulan. The only problem is that after completing my basic development, my finances will be at a dangerous level. Fang Yuan was a little worried, but after 3 days, the Snowman tribe sent the third set of gifts to him. The third set of gifts was the most valuable one among the 3. After getting this, Fang Yuan's basic immortal aperture development no longer had the problem of lacking funds for the time being. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know in report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1468, Ice Path Crystal Essence. Chapter 1468, Ice Path Crystal Essence. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Southern Border. A mild rain was drizzling, there was serenity amidst the cold winds, it was dusk on the green mountain ridge. On a nameless mountain, a huge pine tree with a cone shape had already grown for 6 years on this location. Soon, in an hour, I will be able to refine rank 7 Pine Needle Immortal Gu. 6 years of hard work. Rank 7 secluded cultivator Xianxia thought in his heart with anticipation. He was a wood path Gu immortal, he was using a wood refinement method this time. Even though it took a long time, he was using the technique of Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable, the success rate was very high. Xianxia was originally immortal, when he was finding firewood one day in the mountain, he fell off the cliff and landed on a huge lotus that was within the valley. Through a fortuitous encounter, Xianxia inherited one of Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable's wood path inheritances. After working hard on cultivation, he became a Gu immortal. He slowly cultivated and rarely went out, after hundreds of years, he became rank 7. He had a peaceful nature, one had to say, Genesis Lotus True Inheritance was really suited for him. When refining Gu this time, he turned into a pine tree and stayed here for 6 years, through rain and shine, slowly cultivating while ignoring the changes in the environment. Rumble. At this time, from deep under the earth, he heard a loud sound, like the screaming of countless beasts. What is going on? Xianxia heard the sound and became alert. No way, my Gu refinement method comes from Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable, be it the process of refining Gu or the final moment, the process is natural and mystical, there is no way I will be exposed. Thus, this cannot be a case of enemies coming to snatch it, wait. Xianxia was first suspicious before his heart jumped. He thought of an answer. Months ago, he had also experienced such a situation. That time, there was a huge earthquake, it was as if there was a huge python rolling around in the ground. Even though he was unharmed, the event shocked Xianxia deeply. After that, Xianxia connected to Treasure Yellow Heaven and learned that there was an unprecedented earthquake that involved the entire southern border. Is this the same thing? Xianxia's guess soon got confirmed. Like what he had expected, this was the same type of earthquake as before. But the size of it was far beyond Xianxia's imagination. Rumble. A terrifying earthquake seemed to devour everything, the world was shaking like the apocalypse was here. Huge trenches were created that extended for millions of li. Xianxia was very unfortunately, the nameless mountain that he was on was being devoured by a trench. The mountain collapsed, Xianxia wanted to hold on but he reached his limits, he had to return to human form. Even with his superb mental state, he still wanted to vomit blood, his 6 years of hard work had gone up in smoke. What is this earthquake? Why am I so unlucky, sigh. Suddenly, his bloodshot eyes widened immensely. He saw that the immeasurably wide trench had a mountain-like rock. This rock was orange in color, it was also crystallized, the surface had countless holes that were large as houses, while some were small as fists, a large amount of yellow smoke was spewing out of these holes unceasingly. The smoke became thicker and soon turned into soil. The original orange-yellow crystal rock was covered in a thick layer of soil in a dozen breaths of time. Xianxia breathed roughly, he had Genesis Lotus true inheritance, he knew what this was with his knowledge. This is the Earth Path crystal essence in Hu land. This is a rank 8 immortal material, ah wait. Xianxia's investigative killer move looked further. His eyes became wider as he shouted, did I see wrongly? Not just the Earth Path crystal essence, there are also jade scales, earth hole traveling flame, spring thunder condensed dewdrops. These immortal materials were very valuable, they were also of a huge quantity. The feeling of failing the Gu refinement had already been forgotten by Xianxia, he started to get busy collecting these precious resources. Northern Plains, Langya blessed land. Fang Yuan cultivated his sword path killer moves. Sword path killer move, triple layered sword wave. Swish swish swish. The dazzling silvery waves were crashing unceasingly, 3 layers of waves swept forward with unparalleled sharpness and power. Immortal killer move, formless flying sword. Flying sword Immortal Gu shot out rapidly, it vanished in an instant due to the extreme speed. Fang Yuan could accurately sense the location of Flying Sword Immortal Gu, but others could not. This was one of Bo Qing's signature killer moves. Immortal killer move, Cloud Flying Sword. Fang Yuan clapped as a large amount of cloud fog appeared and rapidly expanded. The power of the sword had no form or limits, it could not be intercepted, without any solid matter, it could not be resisted. Immortal killer move, 10,000 Li Flying Sword. Fang Yuan pointed as sword light flew out like a rainbow, shooting towards the sky, traveling several thousand li in the blink of an eye, it was extremely accurate. And the final move, Immortal Killer Move, 5-finger fist heart sword. Fang Yuan clapped and placed his palms in front of his chest together, before his right hand's fingers curled up, as if he was grasping endless sword light in his hand. Next, he raised his right hand up towards the top of his head. First, his thumb straightened, with a swoosh, an extremely sharp sword light flew out and pierced a hole in cloud-cover continent. Next were his index and middle fingers, they extended and 2 sword lights shot out with terrifying night. But his last 2 fingers could not be stretched, after 3 sword lights, Fang Yuan had to stop the killer move. After some practice, Fang Yuan stood on the spot, collating his experiences. These last days, I have already finished modifying the sword path killer moves. There are a total of 5 moves. Other than triple-layered sword wave originating from Xianxia sect, the other 4 moves came from Bo Qing, and I have already modified them. Sword path situation is inferior to wisdom path. I do not have as many sword path immortal Gu compared to wisdom path, and my attainment level is far lower. My modification is limited. The power is about the same as Bo Qing's original version. Especially the final move, 5-finger fist heart sword. It used to be renowned throughout history. It was a move that shocked the world. But I can only use 3-finger sword lights. That is my limit. At the same time, the power of the move is only at the peak of rank 7. If I can use rank 8 wisdom sword immortal Gu as well, the sword path killer move will reach the power level of rank 8. Unfortunately, wisdom sword immortal Gu was very hard to use. He needed rank 8 immortal essence. Fang Yuan was not rank 8, he could not produce rank 8 immortal essence at all. Fang Yuan had 3 rank 8 immortal Gu, they were Attitude Gu, Years Flow Like Water, and Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu. Among them, Attitude Gu was a legendary immortal Gu written in the Legends of Renzu. It had a very low requirement to use. Years Flow Like Water was slightly worse, but its effect depended on the quality of the immortal essence used instead. Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu was a normal rank 8 immortal Gu. Even though it belonged to Fang Yuan, it needed rank 8 immortal essence to activate. Thus, Fang Yuan had a lot of room for improvement in sword path. But at the current moment, he had reached the limit of development in this path. After finishing the practice of his killer moves, Fang Yuan did not want to waste time. He returned to the Cloud City and started to work on his Immortal Aperture development again. Sovereign Immortal Aperture, at the extreme north of mini northern plains. Snow was falling, the air was cold, snow was deep and thick, the atmosphere was entirely different from before. Howl! Howl! Occasionally, several snow monsters would pace around the snow and emit strange screams. And at the extreme north, there was a mountain-like crystal rock. This rock was blue in color, it had crystallized texture, the surface had countless holes of varying sizes, a large amount of cold and icy smoke was spewing out of these holes unceasingly. They were changing the environment to a great extent. Ice Path Crystal Essence. It was an extremely rare rank 8 immortal material that originated from the secluded domain of heaven and earth, it was rarely seen in the market. The first time he saw this Ice Path Crystal Essence, Fang Yuan sighed, to think that the Snowman tribe had such a valuable thing in their treasury. But Fang Yuan soon understood why. Even though they were living in difficulty now and were in a tough spot, the truth was, after so many generations of cruel competition, how could the remaining snowmen be simple characters? At least, among all of the Snowman tribes, this was a high-quality batch. They were merely trapped here now. Even though their current situation was bad, they had their former glory. The Ice Path Crystal Essence was the important part of the third gift from the snowmen. As for why these snowmen suddenly showed such sincerity, Fang Yuan knew without needing to guess that it was because he defeated the immemorial desolate beast myriad head coiling dragon. The scene was recorded by Shuai, who sent it back to the tribe. Of course, this was Fang Yuan purposely allowing her to do it. He wanted to see that happen. With this Ice Path Crystal Essence, I can create a production line of snow monsters. In time, this will be a new source of revenue for me. While he was thinking of the future, Sixth Hair transmitted to him, Sect Leader, Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu's refinement has reached the crucial step, please come over to refine the Gu personally. Fang Yuan was instantly alerted. If he could refine Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu, he would be able to learn about the following calamities and tribulations in advance. Any Gu cultivator would know how important and significant this was. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1469, Too Weak. Chapter 1469, Too Weak. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. The Gu refinement hall was filled with bright white light. The light was glaring, nobody could look at it directly. An intense aura that was in between mortal Gu and immortal Gu showed that the Gu refinement was at its most crucial step. Fang Yuan was bathed in the white light, his concentration was fully invested. Beside him, refinement path Gu immortal sixth hair had a look of solemnness and nervousness. Now is the time. Suddenly, sixth hair spoke and dispelled the entire refinement path Gu formation. Originally, the best way to refine heavenly secret immortal Gu was to use light path refinement method. Other than that, other paths would only exert more effort for a weaker result, some even caused an opposing effect. And at this final step, the refinement path Gu formation needed to be shut down, the Gu immortal had to personally complete this final step. This was the most unique part of heavenly secret immortal Gu's refinement, almost all other immortal Gu had no such requirement. Only heavenly secret immortal Gu could not be restricted by any rules, it had to be refined when it was in a state of freedom. Undeniably, this was a huge test to the Gu immortal refining the Gu. Because the Gu immortal needed to take the place of the immortal formation at that instant and complete the final step of the Gu refinement himself. But the Gu immortal's control could not be excessive. Otherwise, it would be a form of restriction and heavenly secret immortal Gu would not be refined. This step required a peculiar balance, the intricacy could not be expressed in words, only the Gu immortal undergoing the refinement could experience it. At the final step, Fang Yuan's mind had countless thoughts, using wisdom path methods, he perfectly took over the immortal formation's workload. The surrounding white light was blinding, but Fang Yuan guided it back to a condensed form. Gradually, these lights formed into a circular shape around Fang Yuan. The huge circle had Fang Yuan at the center. Initially, there was only light, but after a few breaths of time, there was a material form. After a dozen breaths, the refinement hall's light had returned to normal, the ring had materialized and was the size of a house, it was white gold in color. The ring was quietly floating. Fang Yuan was at its center. Sixth hair held his breath as he felt excited internally, refinement path killer move. Heavenly light ring, it has finally formed. But we needed to rotate 7 times to refine the rank 7 heavenly secret immortal Gu. The first rotation. Fang Yuan willed as the ring started to rotate slowly. This first rotation took 15 minutes to complete. The first rotation is complete. Sixth hair let out a breath of turbid air. Second rotation. Fang Yuan's eyes which were shut slowly opened. Within his eyes, a profound light shot out towards the ring. The ring which had stopped moving started to move with his gaze, it rotated again. This rotation was faster than before. In just 7 minutes, it finished rotating. The second rotation is done too. Sixth hair clenched his fists. Third rotation. Fang Yuan breathed roughly, he continued to regulate his breath. He was not breathing normally of course, he was using a refinement path killer move. His breath and the ring resonated as it started to spin again. This rotation was even faster now, it finished in an instant. The third rotation is done. Sixth hair's heart was pounding. The fourth rotation. Fang Yuan opened his mouth and started to hum. Under the effect of his voice, the ring started to spin violently. Soon, the fourth rotation was completed. We are already past half of the 7 rotations. But it will get even harder now, because the rings will rotate even faster, it will not be easy to control. Sixth hair was oozing with sweat now. After the fourth rotation, Fang Yuan did not continue recklessly, he rested for a while before using his refinement path killer move to make the ring rotate. The fifth rotation. Fang Yuan's arms were naturally lowered, but at this moment, he slowly raised his arms. As if his arms were tied by 2 mountains, Fang Yuan slowly lifted them like he was carrying something very heavy. The ring started to rotate on its own, but this was different from before, while rotating, it also started to ascend. It became further and further away from the ground, when it reached Fang Yuan's shoulder, there was a sudden pause. Oh no! Sixth hair's expression changed as the ring exploded on its own. Boom! A huge explosion was suppressed by the refinement hall before it caused any severe damages. But Fong Yuan, who was at the center, suffered the full extent of the explosion's force. Puff! Fong Yuan's expression was pale, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Heavily injured. Immortal Gu man as before. Fong Yuan immediately activated this immortal Gu, his ever-useful method started to display its effect. Fong Yuan's heavy injuries became light injuries, but he had not completely healed. Fong Yuan was injured from refining rank 7 heavenly secret, even though rank 6 man as before had some use, its time path effect could not completely get rid of his injuries. Fong Yuan's injuries this time were not simple. Heavenly secret immortal Gu's refinement failed. This was not the first time. For the past several times, sixth hair failed in the middle of the refinement. This time, they reached the end, but Fong Yuan still failed despite doing it himself. At once, Fong Yuan and sixth hair had ugly expressions. Fong Yuan had practiced a lot for this. Before the Gu refinement, he had used many luck path methods, but he still did not succeed. Gu refinement was like this, it was not easy to succeed. Even if one invested a lot into it, they might not gain anything, their efforts might end up in vain. And most importantly, Fong Yuan's calamities and tribulations were impending. If he did not refine heavenly secret in time, Fong Yuan would not be able to do it before the tribulation. It is a pity. Sixth hair sighed. No worry, even without heavenly secret, I am confident of passing. Fong Yuan waved his hand, his mind had returned to normal in an instant. Several days later, Fong Yuan came to a desolate area using the teleportation immortal formation and started to undergo his tribulation. Placing his immortal aperture, he opened the immortal aperture door. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A vast amount of heaven and earth chi rushed in like a waterfall, replenishing sovereign immortal aperture. The scene was simply too grand, Xianxia and the rest were dazed. This time, in order to ensure that the tribulation went without a hitch, Fong Yuan brought the Shadow Sect immortals along. Bai Ningbing was also here, while Shui'er was inside Langyip Blessed Land. Shui'er was not trusted by Fong Yuan, as for the rest, they had entered the sovereign immortal aperture before. When Fong Yuan underwent tribulations, they could help him. When other Gu immortals were attracted here and tries to attack him, they could go out and block those enemies for him. This was the human calamity. When Fong Yuan underwent tribulations, he would be noticed by Heaven's will, there was no helping it. Heavens will try all means possible to exterminate Fong Yuan, it would naturally plot, and after some time, his human calamity would appear. Unless we see it ourselves, it is absolutely hard to imagine that a person's immortal aperture could absorb this much heaven and earth chi at once. Sovereign immortal aperture, it is too powerful. I believe that even rank 9 venerables would not create such a scene when absorbing heaven and earth chi. The Shadow Sect immortals conversed and praised. Bai Ningbing snorted, her gaze was flickering uncertainly. She was shocked in her mind, but she said, "You are underestimating the rank 9 venerables. Even though I have never seen a rank 9 immortal aperture absorb heaven and earth chi, after obtaining Bai Xiang's true inheritance, I learned that Bai Xiang's absorption of the heaven and earth chi when he placed his immortal aperture was far bigger in commotion." Xianxia looked at Bai Ningbing plainly. Bai Xiang was rank 8, he had a rank 8 grotto heaven, Fong Yuan is only rank 7 now, he only possesses a rank 7 blessed land, the two cannot be compared. Furthermore, the sovereign immortal aperture is too huge, there are many places that have not been developed, its potential is unimaginable. In contrast, Bai Xiang Grotto Heaven was already filled up back then, the resources were occupying the entire immortal aperture, these resources naturally expended a lot of heaven and earth chi. Bai Ningbing was silent. Wu Xia is right. Fairy Miao Yin laughed curtly. The other Gu immortals nodded in agreement. After a long time, the sovereign immortal aperture completed the absorption of heaven and earth chi, the tribulation began to form in mini red heaven. Fong Yuan's current body was inside mini red heaven, this tribulation was targeting Fong Yuan, it would not show up elsewhere. As for why he chose Mini Red Heaven, it was because this place was empty. It was once the place where he fought the immemorial year monkey. There were no resources here, his losses were minimized when fighting here. If they were in Mini Northern Plains or Mini Southern Border, the tribulation would destroy countless resources. That was not favorable to Fang Yuan. The sovereign immortal aperture is too huge. If we were the ones undergoing tribulation, how could we avoid destroying resources? But inside the sovereign immortal aperture, the tribulation cannot even cover the whole of Mini Red Heaven. He Lulan sighed with a tone of admiration. My shadow sect accumulated resources for 100,000 years before refining sovereign immortal fetus Gu. Of course it is extraordinary. Wu Xia snorted coldly, saying proudly. A pity it all went to Fang Yuan. Bai Ningbing said casually, making Wu Xia stare at her in anger. What? Did I say something wrong? Bai Ningbing was fearless. She looked at Wu Xia provocatively, defending her face. Wu Xia breathed in deeply. He turned his head over. So what if sovereign immortal fetus Gu was used by Lord Fang Yuan? He is the leader of Shadow Sect. He is on the same boat as us. Ha ha ha. Bai Ningbing laughed in a mocking tone. Wu Xia ignored her and stared at the newly formed tribulation. Only to see that around Fang Yuan, there was a dense poisonous fog. The poisonous fog was rumbling and had 5 distinguishable colors. This is a poison path tribulation. Lady White Rabbit said meekly. Or rather, the 5 poison tribulation. Wu Xia said, he had more depth of knowledge. Like what he had just said, the 5-colored poisonous fog formed into 5 giant monsters, a snake, scorpion, spider, toad, and centipede respectively. The 5 monsters encircled Fang Yuan in a threatening manner but did not attack yet. They were gathering strength. As time passed, their bodies got larger. Why is Fang Yuan not attacking yet? Bai Ningbing frowned. Now was the best time to strike. As time passed, the poisonous beasts would get stronger. But Fang Yuan's tactic was different from normal people's mentality. He waited until the 5 poisonous beasts reached their maximum strength. All 5 pounced towards Fang Yuan with bodies like mountains. Bai Ningbing and the rest held their breaths. The tribulation was so powerful that they were stunned even as just spectators. This was not an ordinary rank 7 tribulation, it was enhanced by heaven's will. It had the maximum power allowed by this world. Just this. Fang Yuan's eyes rolled as he vanished on the spot. Boom boom boom. At the next moment, thunderous sounds erupted continuously. Bai Ningbing and the rest watched with pin-sized pupils as Fang Yuan rampaged on the battlefield. The 5 poisonous beasts were completely suppressed by his countless attacks. A while later, the poisonous fog faded. Only Fang Yuan was left standing in the battlefield like a demonic god. He looked around the battlefield and stared at his own hands, muttering, Rank 7 Heavenly Tribulation is too weak. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1470, Intention to Trade. Chapter 1470, Intention to Trade. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Even though Heavens will wants to get rid of me, the otherworldly demon, and raise the strength of the heavenly tribulation to its limit, it could do nothing against me. This tribulation was not hard for Fang Yuan. He had prepared amply for this tribulation and had a lot of trump cards left unused. Wu Xia and the rest were watching Fang Yuan's solo show and ended up being useless. They were in shock and amazement towards the sovereign immortal aperture. Rank 7 Gu immortals had to go through 24 earthly calamities, 3 heavenly tribulations, and 3 grand tribulations. Fang Yuan patiently waited for the 5 poisonous beasts to reach their peak before dealing with them. He wanted to probe the limit of the heavenly tribulation's power. A rank 7 heavenly tribulation no longer had any threat towards him. Earthly calamities were even weaker, only grand tribulations were an uncertainty. As for how strong grand tribulations could become, Fang Yuan did not know. He had not gone through it once. His rank 7 cultivation level was obtained by annexing apertures. He seized their cultivation level. This was the first time he was going through a rank 7 heavenly tribulation. Afterwards, Fang Yuan used perceivable Dao Immortal Gu to deduce that he obtained 1,000 poison path Dao marks from this heavenly tribulation. From now on, whenever Fang Yuan used poison path Immortal Gu, he would gain 100% amplification. Heavenly tribulations on average gave about 750 Dao marks. Fang Yuan obtained 1,000, it was because Heaven's Will had raised its power to the limit. But these gains were not what he needed now. Firstly, he did not have poison path resources to nurture, his poison path attainment level was very low, he only had one poison path Immortal Gu, Woman's Heart. Evidently, Heaven's Will had purposely chosen poison path to slow down Fang Yuan's growth. The next time I undergo heavenly tribulation, Heaven's Will might reduce the power of the heavenly tribulation to its limit. Fang Yuan could guess this without thinking. This heavenly tribulation made Heaven's Will realize that it could do nothing to Fang Yuan, it would no longer raise its power to the limit. After all, that would only give him more Dao marks, other than making him stronger, there was no point in doing it. This means that my Dao mark gains will be very low when I pass tribulations in the future. Annexing apertures is the proper way to advance now. Fang Yuan understood. Annexing apertures was the advantage of the sovereign immortal aperture, it would be definitely used in the future. But now that he lacked the upper extreme heavenly eagle, and due to Fang Yuan cultivating in seclusion, he had no opportunities for that. The river of time flowed endlessly, time passed rapidly, a month had gone by. During this period, Fang Yuan went through an earthly calamity, as he expected, the gain in Dao marks was very few. But in other aspects, Fang Yuan's improvements were huge, his gains were enormous. In terms of soul path, his soul foundation reached 50 million man soul. His soul was so condensed that it was already showing signs of turning solid. And most importantly, his immortal killer move ghost official garment was getting thicker, it was shielding Fang Yuan with even greater strength now. Over on He Lu Lan's end, she had already refined the star. Fang Yuan tried to use Star Eye's Immortal Gu, the investigative effect was great. With this Immortal Gu, his investigative aspect was greatly supplemented. In terms of immortal aperture management, the basic development was already completed. He expended almost all of his immortal essence stone storage, and the 3 gifts from the snowmen. In the end, he even borrowed some resources from Xianxia sect to complete his foundations. But now, even though Fang Yuan had not fed them yet, the foundation was already set, it was like having dishes on the table even before eating, while the rice was still cooking in the pot. As long as he continued to develop, he would gain success in the future. There were 7 levels of immortal aperture development. The first level was to create mortal resource points. The second level was to have immortal material resources to feed Immortal Gu. The third level was to raise and produce immortal beasts and plants, completing the ecosystem. The fourth level was to produce resources for external trade and profits. Fang Yuan had crossed into the fourth level earlier, but he still had 1 foot in the second level. Now that the second level was done, Fang Yuan's other foot stepped into the third level. The third level was to raise and produce immortal beasts and plants, completing the ecosystem. This level's criteria was, these immortal beasts and plants had to perfectly assimilate into the immortal aperture's ecosystem, they had to form a food chain with the living beings within. Fang Yuan had done this in the past, but now it was lacking. Because his 2 biggest groups of beasts, the eagle group and the year beast group did not perfectly assimilate into the immortal aperture. The eagles needed to hunt for food on their own. But currently, Fang Yuan was purchasing the food from Xianxia sect and Treasure Yellow Heaven. Year beasts consumed year gu as food, Fang Yuan produced it himself. Rank 8 immortal gu years flow like water played a huge part in this, without it, Fang Yuan could not raise such a huge population of year beasts. The third level's development needs to wait. Fang Yuan wanted to continue but he had to stock, he did not have enough funds now, to develop his immortal aperture, he needed to work on the fourth level and increase his trading capabilities. Right now, Fang Yuan had 9 sources of revenue. The first was Daoist Gu. It was a monopoly with huge potential, but he had to invest a lot into it and split the revenue with Xianxia sect. Right now, Fang Yuan's Daoist Gu were all used to cultivate his soul path, his profits were 0 at the moment. Next was Gu. Fang Yuan has not taken over the market for Gu yet, and because of his actions earlier, the revenue of Gu would be horrible for the next couple of years. But undeniably, the market for Gu was huge in potential because Fang Yuan possessed rank 8 immortal Gu years flow like water. This immortal Gu was created by the Northern Plains Time Path great expert He Fan. It was a top-tier immortal Gu among rank 8s. Not only was it easy to use, owning it meant that one had a steady supply of Gu at a low cost. But it had weaknesses too. It would attract immemorial year beasts to wreak havoc in the immortal aperture. After He Fan created years flow like water immortal Gu, he tried to solve the problem. But unfortunately, due to his limitations as a time path great expert, he was not as skilled in other aspects. He was also lacking in fortuitous encounters. If he had the 180 slaves killer move like Fang Yuan, he would have solved the problem. And thirdly, his lifespan was limited. He had already started solving the problem using the immemorial year beast fishing formation as the flood discharge formation, but his lifespan was used up before they could be used. Thus, years flow like water immortal Gu could not shine in its creator's hands. When it went into Fang Yuan's hands, its amazing effect was finally used. Fang Yuan also sighed when he thought of this. This was truly the twists and turns of life. After Gu were the dragonfish and regretful spider resource points. They were in the sovereign immortal aperture's dragon scale sea area and coiling thread cave. Back then, in southern border, Fang Yuan had thought of using Wu clan's strength to develop them. It was a huge effort. But now, the dragonfish business was heavily affected. Because the secret of Fang Yuan disguising as Wu Hai was exposed, and his dragonfish business was done through Wu clan's network, his main targets were the righteous path forces of southern border. This business was naturally stopped after he got exposed. Thus, regretful spiders became Fang Yuan's biggest source of revenue now. The main buyers were Western Desert's Xiao clan. Their relationship was getting firmer. After the dragonfish and regretful spider were Eerie Fire Dragon Python, a series of star path resources, star dart Gu, star fragment grass and more, spirit snakes, snow monsters, and light shine fungi. The Eerie Fire Dragon Python business had started when Fang Yuan obtained some in Imperial Court blessed land. Afterwards he used He tribe's unique raising method to develop them to this scale. The production was not big nor small, it was inferior to the dragonfish and regretful spiders. His star path resources were inherited from Star Lord Xiang. He did not focus on them at all. The reason was simple, they were getting less important because most of his resources were larger in scale. And this was obtained from a rank 6 Gu immortal. Its initial scale was not big either. The spirit snakes were about the same as the star path resources. They came from Handong blessed land which was annexed by Fang Yuan. He did not develop it purposely. Finally, the snow monsters and light shine fungus were future projects. The former used the ice path crystal essence to modify mini northern plains environment, while the latter had great importance now and could not be sold. In conclusion, Fang Yuan's business situation was not promising. Daoist Gu had no profits, dragonfish was heavily affected and earning little. Even though regretful spiders were the same as before, it could not hold up his situation alone. The remaining Eerie Fire Dragon Pythons, Star Path resources, and Spirit Snakes were important to rank 6 Gu immortals, but for Fang Yuan, they were too small in scale. These three and the regretful spider business barely managed to help Fang Yuan maintain his finances. And finally, for the snow monsters and light shine fungi businesses, the former still needed more investment, while the latter needed to expand in size first. The profits from Gu earlier had been depleted. In this situation, Fang Yuan needed to promote his other businesses urgently. He had a lot of resources. Even though he completed the basic development, the Immortal Aperture's development only went from 3% to 4%, but be it the Immortal Aperture's development, modifying of killer moves, or soul path cultivation, he needed to invest even more resources into them. To improve further or increase his earnings, he needed to put in capital. The more he put in, the faster his growth. And for Fang Yuan, he had a vast number of inheritances, he had countless ways to farm resources, he even had many unique techniques, there were too many choices. And among them, which was the most suitable and helpful choice? Fang Yuan fell into deep contemplation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.